What's going on YouTube? This is Max coming back at you once again with another video. This time I'm doing a comparison video on the 2022 Samsung QN800B versus the Sony A90J. Now if you like this type of content, if you could do me a favor by hitting that like button and that subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. I'm doing the comparison video on Spider-Man Miles Morales playing the PlayStation 5. I want everyone to guess which TV is on the left and which TV is on the right. The reason why I'm going this route for right now is just simply because I want people to really look at how both TVs play with their strengths and weaknesses before I go ahead and give out the answer. Now, if you look at the TV on the left, you can see that Miles has a lot more color to the character compared to the one on the right. However, the one on the right has a little bit more detail compared to what is on the left. If you also look at the shadow detail, both of them are pretty similar, but I will also give it to the one on the right. Okay, enough with the suspense. I'm about to go ahead and show which TV is which in the next couple of seconds. Can you figure out what TV it is? If you guessed the QN800B on the left, you are correct. And on the right is the Sony A90J. So the reason why I did this where I didn't show names initially is because I want everyone to kind of get their expectations in between both TVs. I know there are Samsung fanatics and I know there are Sony fanatics, so I wanted to put this comparison video to show the differences between each other. I will say by having the QN800B for close to, just almost a week, I am very impressed about the color reproduction and even the blacks on this one, which pretty much shocked me when I first started playing games on this. Now, going to the Sony A90J, I will say that the TV still has a lot of detail and depth, but it's a very small margin against the Samsung QN800B, which I am very shocked about. This TV for 2022, what Samsung has done, it definitely has a lot of depth. It's close to the Sony A90J or the XR processor, but there are few things here and there which I think Sony did a better job on. But on certain other scenes, I think that Samsung has done a better job on other scenes. So for example, and I'll give you a little bit more detail. If you look at certain objects, like for example the one on the left compared to the right, you can see that Samsung has done a better job when it comes to detail compared to what Sony did on the right. However, if you look at the characters or where your eyes first look at, Sony still have the upper hand when it comes to that detail, whereas Samsung on the other hand, they will do the overall picture detail with maybe some certain objects here and there showing a little bit more detail, but with Sony put their main focus on the subject. Now the interesting thing is that Samsung also does the same thing too, but it's not always consistent compared to Sony, if that makes sense. So Samsung has done a great job in that regards, and I want to make sure that I emphasize that the new processor or what Samsung is using for 2022 is really good. And I would even say borderline almost great compared to Sony. But you do see some of the differences here and there depending on the scene. So it's up to you or up to whoever's watching this to go ahead and take a look and see for themselves which one is better. But I will also say this. The Samsung that you see on the left is the factory settings where I didn't change anything. The only thing that I did was change the picture settings to movie instead of standard, because I think that movie is a more better depiction when it comes to watching content and gaming compared to on the right. I'm using on the Sony A90J custom settings that I was able to get off of DNice from the AVS forums. So the A90J is not calibrated, so I just want to make sure I'm giving that emphasis as well too. So I am using the nicest settings that came from the ABS forums. Now going back to the picture, so on the Samsung QN800B, there is some blooming. Yeah, we'll be very transparent on this. There is some blooming, and I do have DSE on this specific unit. So I want everyone to be aware that it is there. However, it's not that noticeable when it comes to certain content compared to the Sony A90J. It doesn't have blooming, and I don't have any banding, which the Sony A90J have perfect blacks. However, the Sony QN800B, it might not have perfect blacks, but it is, I would say it's pretty close. Pretty close when it comes to OLED blacks. Not by a huge margin. I would say it's close. But one thing I can say about the Samsung QN800B is the shadow detail looks great. The blacks are great. You do see some blooming occasional here and there depending on the content that you watch. And I will say this, I want to emphasize this the most. When it comes to the HDR highlights, I'm telling you, it is bright. Like, so bright that I literally thought I would have to wear some shades of how bright the QN800B is compared to the Sony A90J. Now the Sony A90J has spectacular highlights, but looking at the HDR on the Samsung QN800B, it makes me really consider if I really want to keep this TV or think about getting something bigger that's in the Samsung realm. So I don't know, stay tuned on this one. I'm still keeping my Sony A90J because that's the bedroom TV, but for the basement, I will say this, I am impressed at what Samsung can do. I will say that both TVs has this wow factor, especially with the Sony A90J has this detail and the specular highlights, but the Samsung definitely has a lot of punch when it comes to their HDR content. And I'm going to do some more examples and more videos in the future, but I'm just doing this for this comparison video for right now. I'm going to do another comparison later down the line with Sony and Sony A90J and the QN800B, but I just want to emphasize that both TVs are good. Well, both TVs are great, but I'm just really am blown away on the QN800B. And I could just imagine if I had this calibrated to the standards that it's supposed to be, I'm trying to figure out how much better it could be. Because one thing I will say about this, doing this comparison, there is a punch of orange to the picture compared to the Sony TV. And I know that could be calibrated out. So yet again, I'm emphasizing these are factory settings on the Samsung. The only thing I switched over was to, I keep on saying warm, but the picture settings to movie, where it has warm too. So I know that could be calibrated out. So if it is calibrated out, that doesn't have that push of orange to it, Samsung, you did a good job for this year. So there's some other quirks that I have with the TV that'll be in the future, where I have some issues with the eARC, and then I have some issues with the gaming pad, with the UI and stuff. Those I will talk about in the future, but purely when it comes to picture wise, this TV does shine. And the blooming, going back to the blooming detail, you notice it, but it's not noticeable when it comes to it's going to bother you and say, oh, this is terrible, if that makes sense. And I will show some more video where I didn't see no type of blooming at all on certain scenes, which I was kind of shocked about to see how they did that. But other scenes, I did see some blooming, which I thought Samsung could have done a better job. So I don't know if something in later release could be in a firmware update, but as of right now, is something that just to think about if anyone who is curious or thinking about buying a TV, especially when it comes to Samsung. If you think about buying a Samsung, those are some of the things that you need to look at. So with the QN800B being a 8K TV compared to the Sony being a 4K. Does the 8K really matter? In this situation, no. I really don't see too much of a difference when I'm doing this comparison, specifically with Spider-Man Miles Morales. I there are some little bit more detail on the QN800B, and this is me really nitpicking on certain scenes. But on other scenes, I think Sony has done a better job when it comes to the detail. So, is it really worth to get a 8K TV compared to the Samsung 90B or the 85B? That's something to be determined. I haven't reviewed those TVs, but uh, keep it classy. He has a 90B, and then Tech with KG. He also has the 85B, which they so far are saying really good things about. So you may save some money by going ahead and going that route if it has the same performance as the 800B. But the only thing that I see so far when it comes to the actual detail of it, I really don't see too much of it compared to the Sony A90J when it comes to 8K versus 4K. But I will say this again, it all depends on the content that you're watching. And so far, the 800B is great and it's good. But then it's the question is, do you really need 8K right now? The answer is no, because we don't have a lot of 8K content. Does the 800B do a better job when it comes to their processing when it comes to upverting 4K to 8K? Yes and no, and that's why I said before, it all depends on your content. But I will say this, what Samsung has done so far with the 2022 TVs, I'm impressed. This is not my official review yet. That will be coming up soon. There are some negatives about this TV as well too, which I will mention for people who are using this TV for the eARC. I will have some video follow-ups on that, and people may have some issues determining if they're going to pick this TV up or not. So that's one thing I want to stress out, is when it comes to the picture quality, I think it's good. I think it's borderline great. But some of the features that Samsung has done for the TV wise, that's something to be determined. But I'm about to go ahead and end this video. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are between the comparison video between the Samsung QN800B and the Sony A90J. Leave a comment, like the video, please subscribe to my channel if you get a chance. And I'm about to go ahead and end this video. I want to say thank you for everyone for watching my video, and I'll see everyone on the next video. Take care.